Hello, and welcome back to another fun-filled episode of the Hammercast. And this is an especially cool episode because I am joined by none other than the legend himself, Danny Kavadlo. And if you were watching this on YouTube, he has come extra prepared because in the background, you will notice a menorah in honor of Hanukkah, obviously, but also of the Hebrew hammer, as he informed me. So I was very, very excited about that. We're going to talk principally about all the stuff that surrounds his epic new book, Hybrid Strength Training, which is a tome, if ever there was one, to combining calisthenics and iron training. And if you are interested in either or both of those things, this is an absolute must-get book. I don't want to give away all the details yet, but you are really going to like it. And we'll begin shortly. One thing I want to make sure that I mention to my listeners is that if you have not, you should get my 9-minute kettlebell and bodyweight challenge on the topic of iron and calisthenics training. It is free. Just go to 9minutechallenge.com. I think you're going to like it a lot. And the nice thing is you can tack it on to the end of your current workout. So it's not going to interrupt what you're currently doing. It's going to be like the cherry on top, but it's like an alcohol-filled cherry that, everybody really wants to have. And it's the Thanksgiving season. So why not, right? So 9minutechallenge.com, and you can check that bad boy out. So without further ado, Danny, thank you for joining me.
Well, I'm very excited to be here, number one. First of all, that's right. I'm rocking my menorah here, not only for Hanukkah coming early this year. Hybrid Strength Training is also coming out. But also, that's right, for my man, the Hebrew Hammer over here. It's my first time on your podcast. I'm super delighted to be here. It's been years since I've seen you. And I'm very happy to connect again and to talk about everything.
Absolutely. We were just talking before we started here that there's an epic picture of us. We're going to see if we can get Al, your brother, to track down of the three of us literally hanging out at Tompkins Square Park. We're doing like, I think, a one-arm hang on a jungle gym setup of some sort. You might remember the equipment better than I do because I've only been there 2 or 3 times. Yeah, we'll track it down and we'll post it somewhere on social media. At the moment, it is lost somewhere in the ether of the internet, but it's not far away. So
I know you're a fan of language as well, and I appreciate that you use the word literally with its old definition, meaning we are literally hanging. Sometimes people use the word literally to mean just figuratively or not literally, the opposite of literally. That's often what it's used as. So I appreciate you using an outdated definition over there, but I appreciated it.
Yeah, no, I am a fan of archaisms, and I wish that were not an archaic phrase to say literally as like an intensifier, meaning not necessarily literally. Yeah, it boggles my mind that people would use it
not literally.
Exactly, they would use it so flagrantly. It is, and I appreciate that you and I were both old schoolers in that regard, but also in regard to our training, because you have been doing old school training since long before it was cool. Like lately, I would say maybe last 20 years, it's been cool to do like the compound movements, old school calisthenics, old school strength training. But you've been at it for way longer than that. I think I was reading a little bit about your biography in hybrid strength training. You've been working out for like 30 years.
Well, I appreciate the kind way that you called me old. And
experience.
I'm 47 years old. So I was born in August of 1974. And the Brooklyn that I grew up in was a Brooklyn where you wanted to work out. So you worked out. And really, what do we have access to at the time? Obviously, this is pre-internet. Like if I'm working out when I'm like 12 or 13, we're talking about it's the mid 80s over here. Mm-hmm. So, I have an older brother, I have a younger brother. We did push-up contests, we did pull-up contests. That was really about it for a lot of years. So, it really all started with calisthenics, mm-hmm. Which has been a part of my training forever. But in terms of old school strength, so many things you mentioned, the last 20 years or so. I've been working as a fitness trainer and nothing else since 2006. So that's going on almost 20 years, 15 years, something like that, 16 years. And so many things come and go. So many things come and go. And I don't need to sit and name every little thing that has come and has went. But the classic movements have never gone away. Whether you're moving something heavy to navigate yourself through increased progressive resistance, if that heavy thing is your body or a barbell or a kettlebell, of course there's differences and nuances and things to gain through each of these virtues, but you're doing strength training. So to talk about, old school training or old school strength training, I guess I've always been doing it because we started out minimalist. And to this day, I mean, I got my home gym now, but what do I got? I got a pull-up bar, I got a squat rack, I got barbells, I got some kettlebells, I got some dumbbells. So yeah, I'm a big proponent of classic, more than even old school, I'd say classic, timeless things that work. That's what I'm a fan of when it comes to training.
Absolutely. And I've seen videos of you training in your home gym, and it's one of those things where I think that let's say the true enthusiast would really appreciate it. And I think that maybe the person who's new at it would think, oh, well, there's not a whole lot of fancy stuff and odds and ends, but it's like you see that stuff, and it's like the kind of gym that Dorian Yates would have trained in to become the 6-time champ, Mr. Olympia. And you've really got everything that you need down there. And you've got, again, like you said, a completely classic setup. Now, I think you are better known for being a calisthenics guy, but you've never been exclusively a calisthenics guy. Like I've known for many years that you've liked to train with the iron, but a lot of other people don't necessarily know that. So how did you get involved in training with the iron? How have you added it to your calisthenics training, and what are some of the benefits that you've seen from doing that?
Okay, well, you're right. I'm definitely known as a calisthenics guy, and I'm very grateful for that. And I am one of the most vocal and visual proponents, I hope, in the whole world of calisthenics and body weight and minimalist training. So I'm definitely known for calisthenics. And like I said, I started out doing push-up contests, so I've always done calisthenics. The weights came in pretty much as soon as I had access to them, because what young kid doesn't like to lift weights? Most of them do. So did I ever exclusively do calisthenics? It's tricky because weight training came in very early. Calisthenics was the catalyst for everything. And it should be, because you really have to learn basic movement before you should pick up something heavy or put a barbell on your back or anything like that. And weightlifting stayed with it. Now, as my brother Al Kavadlo, hey, and I, as we left the gym and started training more outdoors, we phased out a lot of things. Overhand presses were replaced by handstand push-ups, and certain compound movements were replaced by muscle ups. And at the time, heavy barbell squats were replaced by pistol squats and other asymmetrical, difficult variations of squats. And that is in the 2000s, in let's say the early 2010s. And at the time, we started working with Dragon Door and Convict Conditioning, and we launched the Progressive Calisthenics Certification, which I hope to see you at one as my guest one of these days. And it's the first ever bodyweight certification there ever was. And that's with Paul Wade and John Duquesne and my brother Al Kavadlo and myself. So once PCC started, obviously the focus of my training was on calisthenics. It's like, okay, I'm flying to Taiwan and 50 people paid money to come here and learn human flag from me. I better be able to really show them every nuance of it and be able to hold it for long enough for them to understand and for me to talk about it while I'm doing it. So when PCC came around, everything, I'm not going to say it phased out because it didn't, but it certainly was not the focus. As far as my one-on-one clients that I trained, I always did hybrid training, whether I was doing all hybrid training, whether I was doing barbell training, whether I was doing all calisthenics training. And you're right, it never phased out. You said that earlier, and then I repeated it. But if you look even back at my earlier stuff, Dragon Door, Everybody Needs Training in 2013, there's pictures of me training people with barbells. There's pictures of me training people on cable crossovers. I'm a big believer in use what you got. And if all you got is your floor and your pull-up bar, well, you know what? I'm going to show you how to use it. But if I'm working as a personal trainer in a gym and people are coming to a nice gym and maybe this particular gentleman shouldn't be doing a handstand push-up, maybe it's better off I put some 8-pound dumbbells in his hand. That's the virtue of that. So it never phased out of my training. But as PCC exploded, I mean, we've done this in continents. We've done this all over the world. We've certified over 1,000 trainers in calisthenics. So that became the focus of the training. But the barbell stuff never went away.
Mm-hmm.
I really got back into it a few years ago, especially weighted calisthenics, just as a way to mix it up, just as a way to make it fun and to continue to challenge myself. You know, the very same thing that made me sick of gym workouts and made me in love with the purity of calisthenics workouts. When that's all you do, it's like, man, that barbell looks nice. Let me try that. So you just want to keep yourself interested. And the truth is, all this stuff has a lot more in common than apart, but we'll talk about that a little bit more later. So over the pandemic, I really started lifting a lot more personally. Actually leading up to it, like the year leading up to it. But right before the pandemic, a gym here in New York City called Complete Body, they upgraded all their stuff and they gave me their squat rack. So I put the squat rack in my basement. 2 weeks later, the universe shuts down. Stay inside. Well, I was like, all right, I got this squat rack and all this weight, so I'm going to use it. So again, that goes with the principle of use what you got. But with my clients, it never went away because I've always been a believer in doing whatever is most effectual for the individual, whether that's pure calisthenics, pure weight training, or any combination of the two, or anything else. So it's not that one thing is better than the other. It's all strength training. And the funny thing is, you look at anybody, man, there's nobody who's purely done calisthenics. Everybody's gone to the gym and done curls for 3 months at least when they turned 18 or something. So it's like this whole division of one thing versus the other is really, you know, created on YouTube. Because, you know, I read a lot over the last couple of years, and I started rereading things I already owned because you forget. So I started rereading all these strength books. I started rereading all this Arnold stuff and all these old strength books. That's like, all this stuff is calisthenics and free weights. This is not new. So it's like, I want to be clear. It's like what I'm talking about here in hybrid strength training. I did not invent this. I'm distilling it now down in a way that's practical for the way people train today in 2022, 2021 for the future. But if you look back at any old school strongman, they're lifting heavy shit. They're doing handstands. This dogma and this over compartmentalization of things, I think, came much, much later. So I'm a strength training guy, man. You know, I do what works.
Absolutely. You know, and I'm glad that you said that too, because it's true. This is one of the reasons that I really gravitate toward the more old school stuff, is because, like what you said, you know, like Arnold loved calisthenics. He said, you know, anytime you can do body weight exercises, that's great. You got guys who are like, let's say Eugene Sandow. He could chin himself on any finger of either hand, including the thumb, with just one hand, one finger. You know,
he's a great example because he would do extreme body weight challenges and extreme weighted challenges, you know, bent presses and lifting people and all types of things. He's a great example.
Yeah. And there were so many things that the old schoolers did that thankfully we're starting to see again. You know, you mentioned Paul Wade, and I know he oversaw the writing of the Ultimate Isometrics Manual, which I got like many months ago, and I finally got around to reading it recently, and it's like a masterpiece. It's
I mean, Paul Wade, he's the OG, man. I mean, this guy,
the oest of OGs.
yeah. I love reading Paul Wade because I love picking up information, but I also just like reading Paul Wade because he's fun. It's good entertainment. It's a good read.
Absolutely. He's got a very entertaining way of talking about the old school stuff it doesn't seem like it's a lecture or a history lesson. It sounds like it's like an adventure.
Right.
And I mean, I think Ultimate Isometrics Manual is a great example of that. But 100%, like Jim Bathurst, I remember, said something to the effect of like, because everyone saw him as like, you know, this gymnastics and calisthenics guy. And then he made sure that people knew that he also squatted and he benched. He said, I'm going to do anything that's going to get me stronger. I'm not going to limit myself, you know, based off of like a preferred method. And it's very good to hear that you have taken that approach since day one with your students, because I think there are a lot of people. I had a discussion with somebody about this many years ago, a different trainer in New York, and he said, yeah, there are a lot of people who just they'll go through a weekend certification and then they act like everything they've learned up to that point sucks, and now it's all about what's in the weekend certification, you know?
That the weekend certification, it was a trainer in New York, you said, who said that?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked at gyms in New York for a long time, and you could always tell who just went to a certification because all of a sudden on Monday, every newbie trainer is like using a power plate
Yeah.
or like, using some thing.
Yeah.
And within 3 weeks, they're not. But everyone shows up and it's like, okay, I'm doing this. I don't want to dog any particular certification, but I'm like, oh, I know that one.
Exactly.
So it's
No, and
just
that's the thing is,
certifications are great. It's funny when I teach PCC, I literally say to people, do not go to train your client who's doing like benching like 95 pounds and doing walking lunges with 10 pounds in each hand. Do not say, hey, I learned this exercise today. It's a muscle up. It's like, no, this person can't do 3 pull-ups. This is not, this is for us. Certain things in PCC, yes, okay, let's look at these squat progressions here. This is great for a beginner. But when you're talking about something that's esoteric or that's very particularly for a specific group, come on now, right? You show up, you make everyone do it, and that just shows silliness. There's an old saying, it's like, the amateur trainers in the gym because they're the ones doing all this new stuff. The rookies are the ones doing squats,
yeah,
lunges, push-ups, dips, presses. Those are the experienced ones.
yeah, exactly.
Their clients doing that. The person standing with 1 foot on a Bosu, balancing through fire, blindfolded with a kettlebell out here. That's not the veteran trainer doing that, I hope.
Yeah. No, hopefully not. And it's funny you mentioned that too. It reminds me, there's a story. I remember reading this. I think Brooks Kubik wrote about it in his dinosaur training blog. And he said there was a story about back in the old days with John Grimmick and Steve Stanko were training at a gym out in York, Pennsylvania. But, York Barbell's like headquarters. Wow. And it was not uncommon for people to go and just watch these greats, lift. So they would stand out and, they would stand by the corner or they stand over by the wall and just watch these guys lift because they were so incredible. And so there were some of their opponents who wanted to beat them. I think it was either at Mr. USA or, one of these competitions. They were like, we want you to see what they're doing and then report back to us so that we can do what they're doing and we can maybe get the drop on them and beat them. So they came back after watching a training session. They said they must have been onto us because all they were doing was squats and military presses and bent over row. And so it's like, they spent their time doing the foundational stuff. And that's what got them so good. It wasn't, some Bosu ball blindfolded while, waving a flaming kettlebell around. It was just the old school stuff.
Yeah, you gotta, we say it all the time, like you gotta know the rules before you could break them.
Exactly.
Like, I don't want to see your moves till I could see your reps. I guess that's more a calisthenics thing, but it applies to everything. I don't want to see the flashy, crazy stuff. I want to see the basics. You show me the basics. Okay, let's talk. Okay, we got the basics over here. That's the same thing with fitness in general. I'm having this conversation so much lately because I think, there's just a lot of people that, like they'll do anything to be in shape except, work out or exercise. So there's always, yeah. or clean up their diet, like get some type of physical stimulation, do an actual workout, and maybe eat nutritious things. It's like people don't want to do that. They want to do all types of other things. But the idea is like, if you live in a home and like the walls are falling down and the roof is caving in and the floor is flooding, sewage coming up from the ground, you don't want to think about, oh, let me fix this molding over here. Like, yeah. No, we need to build a frame. We need to build a floor. We need to build a roof. And that's what it is. And that there's just so much of that with exercise, with nutrition in general. It's like, we gotta get basic. We gotta move the way we move. I like your story. It's like, what are they doing to beat everybody? Oh, this. It makes sense.
100%. And, one of the things too that I think really when it comes to helping people everybody's going to have to do the basic stuff eventually. People don't like the word basic, so a lot of times I'll say like foundational, but
Let's say
no matter what, yeah, a
classic.
classic is even better. And I think the big thing that has to happen is they've got to have a change in their mindset. They have to learn how to love these classic movements. And in hybrid strength training, I know that you bring honor to these things. Not like they were dishonorable to begin with, but you let people you let the readers see this is how you use these things to get a lot stronger and reach the goals that you're after. And so you make it exciting. And so what are some of the ways that you are able to articulate this, both in the book as well as when you're training people face to face, that gets them excited to do push-up or gets them excited to do Bulgarian split squats or that sort of a thing?
Well, Bulgarian split squats is tough.
It's a bad example. No one's excited about those. Yeah.
You know, I gotta say, it's gonna sound so simple, but the answers are always simple. People want to get results. Like people really do. So like I'm really big into, again, basics. I'm really into certain basic things. And the reasons might be surprising. Like I'm pretty particular about form and correct movement patterns and this and that. I'm reluctant to even use the word correct because there's so much individuality with the way people move. But let's just say form, let's just say proper form for different exercises. And my reason for that really isn't even necessarily to do it safely, or it's really just to get the most out of it. Why do I want you to keep your heels down on a squat? Because you're going to feel it more in your muscles and less on your joints. Mm-hmm. Why do I want you to have a perfectly straight line on a push-up from your shoulder to your hip down to your feet? Well, because it's going to be harder for your arms and your abs and your butt. So like there's a reason we want to exercise. There's a reason we want to do things, and there's a reason we could get the most out of it. So one of the things that I think is good in terms of, you know, either getting people inspired to do stuff or to continue working or get or go through the workouts and work with honor these classic movements, to use your word, is be in the results business. Look, I'm all about, hey man, respect the journey, man. Like I'm as hippie and dippy as you get. It may even surprise you. But the truth is, we're trainers, baby. We're in the results business. You know, I'm a delight to spend an hour with, but somebody really wants to get strong after paying me for 6 months. Yeah. You know, and they're right for that expectation. They're not wrong for having that expectation. So, you know, you talked about mindset. And I think that one of the most important things to take away from this book, and I'm glad to write hybrid strength training, because I'm talking about movements, you know, more than I'm talking about specific exercises. There's several exercises in the book. You know, there's Australian pull-up, there's barbell row, there's dumbbell row. They're all horizontal pulling exercises, but there's different reasons, there's different benefits, there's different reasons that one might want to do one more than the other. Mm-hmm. So in bringing this out, what I want people is to just get in that mindset of, okay, I got to show up and do the work. And maybe this excites me. Maybe, you know, I'll never forget this. I'm getting off topic a little bit, but I was in the gym one time, and very famous gym where the trainers charge more than I do. And I ain't cheap, you know? And it's like, these people charge a lot of money. And there was this guy, he had his client, this female lady doing, you know, curls, whatever, really poor form. Weight, as an outsider without knowing any background, it appeared to me that it was too heavy for her, mm-hmm. you know? And she was like, oh, can we please do something else? And he's like, nope, 5 more, like doing one of these things. And it's like, you know what? If someone's like, can I please do something else? It's like, okay, put it down. Let's stretch out a little bit. How does that make you feel? That's the way to do stuff. So I think getting in that mindset of being results minded. I know I'm all about the process, and it is step and step and step, but we got to keep our eyes on the prize. And if we get ourselves into a cycle where we hate doing it, we're not going to continue with the process, and we're not going to get results. So I want to give people, I mean, there's over 100 exercises in this book, including variations and stretches and different things. And there's also detailed programs, but I want to give people as many different options. You know, I've had it. This goes back from working in the gyms, man. You know, it's like people who know me from YouTube are like, oh yeah, keep the dream alive. But like in reality, I'm just some dude, you know, I have a job, whatever. And when I used to work at the gyms, I was a personal training sales manager for New York Health and Racket Club on 23rd Street and 6th Avenue for many, many years. And I would sit down and I would sit with everybody and figure out how to get them coming into the gym. And I think that ultimately that results mindset, that frequently getting in, that making things personal for people is really important. But at the same time, no one wants to keep paying you if they're not getting results, you know? And I think that's, we can't just be about the process.
Yeah.
But if we are about the process, we get the results. So it's a big picture.
Definitely. And, you know, it's also interesting too, because you have to provide some level of enjoyment. Like you said, you know, you saw this trainer having a gal doing these curls that seemed too heavy for her. She wasn't enjoying it. Now you don't have to, you know, like it's not supposed to be like
sometimes you don't enjoy it, right?
Yeah. But there's also a time at which you have to be, as a trainer, you got to make a judgment call. Like, okay, maybe there's a reason she's not enjoying it. Maybe her shoulder hurts, or maybe her elbow's bugging her, you know, whatever it may be. So sometimes you just need to pay attention. So there's like an art and a science to it. So like, you know, the science side of things is like the sets and the reps, the exercise selection, the programming, but the art behind it is like getting people to really enjoy what they're doing, not because it's a mile-a-minute thrill ride, but because they can feel like their training was meaningful, you know, and it doesn't mean feeling the burn. It doesn't, I mean, maybe it does in some degree, but it means that they feel like they've made measurable progress and they feel proud of themselves, you know?
There's this great meme. I actually have it cut out and like taped to my desk, and I'm going to grab it right now. It's from T Nation. At least that's where I saw it.
Great.
And it says, out of every 10 workouts, 4 will be meh, 3 will suck, 3 will be great. The key to long-term success isn't destroying every workout. It's staying consistent for the long haul. Okay, Eric Bach said that, so I'm giving credit where credit is due.
Amen.
That's the name of the game. Like you can't show up and destroy worlds 10 out of 10 times. It's unrealistic. And when people give themselves unrealistic expectations, they set themselves up for disaster. If you say, I'm going to ride my bicycle to work every day forever, now you miss a day. Now you failed. If you say, I'm going to ride my bicycle to work on Mondays if it's not raining, now you do every Monday that it's not raining. You know what? Maybe on Thursday, you're like, screw it, I'm going to do this bike again. Like expectations are good. Goals are good. We have to be guarded and we have to be realistic.
Yeah. 100%. In fact, a great example is I used to train these ladies when I lived in Israel, and I was doing a lot of traveling to teach workshops and that sort of a thing. And they were like, you know, we need you to be here to help us. And I wanted to be there to help them, but I also wanted to be, you know, in Europe or the US or wherever it was, to help other people too. So I said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to make every day, not just the days I would normally be here training you. We're going to have a 5-minute rule. You have to do 5 minutes of some movement. I mean, it could be laying on the ground and just doing some deep breathing. It could be going for a walk. You could do some push-ups against your countertop. And then you're going to check in this WhatsApp group. And once you've done your 5 minutes, you're done. You can do more if you want, but you owe me at least 5 minutes. Within weeks, they were all doing 10, 15, 20 minutes. It's exactly like what you said. You know, you set the expectations not low, but you set them at such a reasonable height that it's not scary anymore. And suddenly,
the only non-negotiable expectation, you have to show up.
Exactly.
You show up. Fuck, I'm just going to do, screw it. I'm going to do 10 minutes today. Will you do those 10 minutes? Maybe you do 20. Maybe you do 30. And if you're prepared, okay, whatever happens. You still got to show up.
Exactly.
And that's great what you told those people. That's great advice.
And the thing is it became kind of like a rallying cry for me, because I've used it for other people and it works every bit as well. Mm-hmm. And but that's the thing, they got to be able to show up. And so that's one of the nice things about, you know, calisthenics. It's one of the great things about having even just a couple of weights at your house that you can use this for. And one of the great things about hybrid training is that hybrid strength training is that I think it shows people how to do that and make it easier. And so with that in mind, what are some of the ways that hybrid strength training acts as like the bridge between the things you've written up to this point to being like the let's say, I don't want to say the peak necessarily, but let's say like the next step, so that people who are interested in it are able to understand its role in your system and how it takes them to the next level.
Well, yeah. I mean, I do think it's the peak of what I've done. I think it's the most. First of all, I mean, there's so much to say. I love this project. This is the longest I've ever spent on any project. To give a little history, when Get Strong came out in 2017, that's when I first started this book in 2018. I was of the mindset like, okay, Get Strong, this is it. I can't write about calisthenics anymore. We got it. I want to write about hybrid training. And that's when I started the first version of this. And like many endeavors, I started it, I put it down. I picked it up, I put it down. And then at a certain point, I didn't put it down, and I was able to do it, and I was disciplined enough. And I decided, I guess this is a priority at this point, and I guess it wasn't a priority at the other points. So tell me the question again. I think I went on a tangent.
How does this? How is this like your magnum opus?
Gotcha. Sorry about that. You know,
no. It was a long question. So
it's COVID brain, right? So just in terms of being more time invested in it, I had more time to distill the information. The programs were one of the first things that I started with before I had the rest of it. And in other works, I started with the stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, I got to put together a program, or let's grab some workouts that fit this criteria, adjust it, blah, blah, blah. But this really started with writing down what I was actually doing with clients and with myself. In terms of it being the peak, I'm a better writer. There's less garbage in it. The photos are better. The stuff is more on target. The stuff is more less me talking about stuff that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. Just a little bit of that now. The Dan's rants are more focused and contained. And the training itself, this is not a calisthenics book by Danny. This is a strength training book by Danny. The subject matter is greater. It's got calisthenics. It's got all strength training, at least the way I do it. I deliberately did not put machines in it. So it's hybrid strength training. So it's calisthenics and weighted calisthenics and barbells and dumbbells. And there's a few things you could use kettlebells for, but it's not a kettlebell book. I did not put machines in it because I don't really use them in my training. To be fair, there's times where I would use an isolation machine with certain clients I would work with. Ironically, the only people I would really use machines with is either elderly or injured people, where, hey, you want to work just this specific muscle and keep it really isolated. Okay, maybe you want to use this machine. So I would use machines either with elderly or injured, or I'd use machines with bodybuilders. For the same reason, we want to target this exact muscle and not exhaust anything else that we do on a different day. Yeah. The way I actually train myself and the people that train my ways, there's not really machines in it. There may be a time or two where a cable is the right thing in certain situations, but I do calisthenics and I lift up barbells and I lift up heavy stuff. So in terms of the integrity and the content, it's the most official. It's not just here's calisthenics by Danny. It's like, this is strength training by Danny. And of course, it's the return of Danny's do's and don'ts. So it's the special nutrition edition. So this should be very good for some people that have questions about my take on this type of thing. And there's 3 distinct programs. I just love it. I can't wait to share this with the world. I'm so excited. It's been so delayed. And I'm so excited to finally share this with the world.
Yeah, the buildup has been incredible because, like I was mentioning earlier, we reached out in August and you're like, let's do it a little bit closer to the launch. And then the launch kept moving because of all the supply chain issues. But I think people are really going to get a lot out of this book for all the reasons that you talked about, man. It's like, it really is. I think a magnum opus is a good way to put it because
thank you.
I'm serious, man. It's like, phenomenal information on calisthenics, phenomenal information on the classic.
I'm actually writing that down, a magnum opus.
Yeah, man.
Hebrew hammer.
Oh, yes. That's my official stamp of approval. So you can, by all means.
You said it. You recorded it. You
It's
can't
stuck to
take
the
it back.
tape. That's
The
important.
world. That's it, man. I'm gonna bring this up 30 years from now.
I can't wait. We're gonna, yeah, you and I are gonna be sitting around at the nursing home, you know, like rocking on our rocking chairs, still pressing some dumbbells or what have you overhead.
I can't wait. I mean, the bottom line is take care of yourself.
Yeah.
I trained somebody this morning. She is 79 years old. She did 3 sets of 10 deadlifts at 85 pounds. She did 3 sets of 3 push-ups on the ground. 79 years old. She's the aging process is real, but people give it a little too much.
Yeah.
They don't do what they need to be doing and then blame things on the aging process. I'm pushing 50, so I can start saying stuff like this.
You don't look like it. I will
Pushing
tell you that
28,
much.
to be honest. What's that?
I said, you don't look like it. I'll be honest with you,
I'm
man.
doing it, man. I'm just trying to eat good food. I started eating a lot more fruit in my diet over the pandemic. And I used to be like a mostly plants person, like plants and animals. Like I'm a Mark Sisson guy with a lot of that stuff. He's
Yeah.
a little more neurotic than me, and I'm a little more loosey than him. But for the most part, that whole plants and animals, primal blueprint stuff, I kind of dig it. But I used to be more vegetable forward, and now I'm absolutely more fruitarian who also eats meat and vegetables minded.
It's the way to be. That kind of describes my diet. In fact, very similar. Plants, yeah, I would say plants in the form of vegetables and fruit, and animals, and then like periodically, I got another thing or two tossed in there, but that's about it.
Yeah, I have a cookie sometimes. It's cool. It's fine.
Yeah, but we got to watch our girlish figure too, because you got to be cover ready at any moment.
It is a thing. It is a thing. It's like, yeah, you can't get too fat these days, in the Instagram age.
No.
You look at like where it would be like these actors and stuff, it would be like even I'm not even talking about like 5 years ago, like not that long ago. It would be like you'd see Vin Diesel in a movie, and then like Us magazine would be like, look how fat Vin Diesel looks when he's on vacation with his girl. It's like,
That's
God,
so
you guys are terrible. But it's like it's even worse than that. It's like, okay, I got to be ready to rip my shirt off or whatever.
exactly.
The struggle is real. I just get fat and then get skinny again.
The yo-yo thing, yeah, man. I got you.
It works.
Absolutely.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking. That was a joke.
No, he's I don't think I've ever seen a picture of you not like completely shredded. So I would have
I don't post the ones where I'm not.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't see a picture of you every single day. So it might be.
Yeah, thank God. No, I got to start doing it more. It's all right.
Absolutely.
It's all right. This is the world, man.
That's definitely true. Well, in addition to snagging this book, which you can get on dragondoor.com, where can people follow you online if they want to see all the latest and greatest material that you're putting out and all that other good stuff?
Yo, follow me on Instagram at Danny Kavadlo. Like, I love Instagram now. I was a long time Instagram holdout. Like, everyone had Instagram. I was a long time everything holdout.
Yeah.
I love Instagram. I do it on my phone. I don't even have Facebook on my phone, but I'm keeping the Facebook dream alive too. So Danny the Trainer on Facebook, like my page. I don't know if I can get friends or whatever, but like my page, Danny the Trainer. DannyTheTrainer.com. Follow me on Instagram at Danny Kavadlo. This book will be available at dragondoor.com. Kindle will be available on Amazon, of course. And reach out to me. Yo, if you message me, I will get back to you. I get back to 100% of the people that message me, unless it's something like really creepy and weird.
Right. So the takeaway here is do not write him anything creepy, but by all means, feel free to reach out.
Yeah, like talk to me about push-ups or something.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Danny, thank you very much for coming on the show.
You are welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
It has been a pleasure. And folks, as always, have fun and happy training.